At some point in July, I saw this Twisty Puzzles forum post, which shows somebody who essentially took two mirror cubes and swapped pieces between them to make it look like a mirror 2x2 was inside a mirror 3x3. And sometime later, someone else made a very similar version, which was basically the opposite. That looks like there's a mirror 2x2 on the outside, fused to a mirror 3x3. And also stickered versions were posted as well. So I thought to myself, what if I could make a version that just looks like a normal 2x2 is fused to a normal 3x3 without any mirroring? And here's the unique pieces of what I came up with. You can see that this is still just a 3x3 extension mod, but a few of the pieces appear to be parts of a big 2x2, whereas the rest of them are just normal 3x3 pieces in appearance. But they are all just normal 3x3 pieces that are extended to create different appearances. I had to make the 2x2 a 54mm 2x2 because that's the smallest 2x2 I could make while preserving all of the face patterns. Also, you can see that on the sides of the 2x2 there's a bit of a slant, but I remedied that by coming up with a creative sticker pattern that makes the 3x3 and 2x2 just look like they're fused together instead of having an awkward angle that kind of diminishes the 2x2 look. Okay, so here's all the pieces that I have printed for this puzzle. You will see that some of them are vastly different sizes, so I guess that's a fairly easy way to tell what's intended for the 2x2 and what's intended for the 3x3. This would be a 3x3 piece, this would be a 2x2 piece. Now, this, as it turns out, is a 3x3 extension mod. So let's take the mini 3x3 out. I believe these are about $1.50 each, maybe not including shipping. I don't really remember, I bought a lot of these months ago just to have a bunch of them for projects. There's a few different brands of these, but I found that this one, which might be by Moyu. Let me see. Yeah, this is the Moyu one. I found that the Moyu one tends to be the nicer one of the 3x3s. It just seems more stable. Of the 30mm 3x3s, I mean. But yeah, so once you unhook the keychain, you've got yourself just a nice little stickerless puzzle. And as you might know already, what I usually do is corners first, then edges, then centers. That way there's a much higher chance that everything will be properly aligned on the puzzle. So let's find the 3x3 corner, I guess. Let's do the 3x3 ones first, just because the giant 2x2 corner is going to be really obtrusive if I glue it on first. I also don't really pay attention to these colors because they never show up in the final product, so it's like, what's the point, honestly? So you just spread the glue around the extension. What some people like to do also is scuff up the surfaces of the mini 3x3, which should give the super glue a better surface to latch onto and better adhesion. But the thing about it is, I've never really had issues with these pieces falling off, so I'm just not gonna bother. But that's a thing you can do if you want to just take an extra precaution. If you really think about it, I could have designed this puzzle to be a fully original construction instead of a 3x3 extension mod. But there's pros and cons to that. The main thing I like about 3x3 extension mods is that I don't have to worry about a core, screws, maybe even springs, all that. I just take a base puzzle, which already turns fairly well, you know, and then I just add pieces to it. It's really quite simple. And the end result turns out turning quite well because, well, this is a very nice turning puzzle, especially for a 30mm cube. Whereas with a custom 3D printed mechanism, I feel that it requires a lot more just time to get it perfect. And I know that's definitely not the case for all designers. There's plenty of designers I know who can just go and design a puzzle with the core and screws in just no time, and that's fine. But I just don't like that. Another thing is I use PLA, which, if you might not know, tends to strip if you use it as a core, and I'm just not a big fan of the concept of having to replace cores a lot. Now again, this will be different for everyone. I'm sure there's people who use PLA who use it for cores, but just in my experience, creating these extension mods, especially for these simple like 3x3 based puzzles, is just overall a lot easier and makes the whole process a lot more appealing, honestly, just because it's less steps that I have to go through to get a finished puzzle. That being said, obviously a lot of puzzles can't be made as a 3x3 extension mod. Like, here's a Scube Diamond. This isn't an extension mod of anything, no matter how hard you try. Like, maybe you could extend a mini Scube into this, but it's like, what are you doing at that point? But it does kind of encourage designers to chase the limits of what can be of what a 3x3 or a 2x2 can be extended to. Like this is a 3x3 extension mod. Honestly, if I didn't tell you, you probably wouldn't have even thought about that. And puzzles like this are why I think 3x3 extension mods are really nothing to look down on. There's a lot that can be done using this method, and it just makes, for me personally, a lot more of an enjoyable experience when actually building the puzzle, because rather than fiddling with the core and all that, I can just glue all the pieces on and then have a puzzle ready after the stickers are done. I know there's also some like very creative people who are working on stickerless FDM puzzles, which honestly, those look really cool. Shout out to Kevin for making those. But again, I'm not into that. I just prefer to design a puzzle and then create it in the simplest way possible, which happens to be, in this case, just an extension mod with black plastic and stickers. Alright, those would be the first layer corners, and now I have the 4 other corners left. Remember, this puzzle has all of the same corners, except for this big one. Now that the fused illusion is fully assembled and stickered, I honestly think it's one of the sharpest looking puzzles that I've ever built. The illusion created by the extra sticker cuts actually makes it look like a genuine 2x2 instead of just an extended chunk of a 3x3. And I'm really impressed by how it turned out. The rest of the puzzle is fine. The turning is better than most of my puzzles, ironically, because I've done the least to the interior 3x3. If you think about it, this really is just a straightforward extension mod, so it's still able to corner cut a little bit, as the base puzzle was able to. That being said, sometimes the big pieces are a bit awkward to handle, although it's never really that bad, and the puzzle is definitely very playable. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, especially because it's such a simple idea and such a simple execution. Really, the hardest part of the design was figuring out how to angle the cuts so that the 2x2 section would actually look like a 2x2. Anyway, let's see how crazy this thing will look when it's all scrambled. Obviously, since this is just a 3x3 mod, it should be relatively simple to solve. However, because this puzzle shapeshifts, of course you have the question of what side do you solve first, as your cross and then as your first layer later on. And depending on what you choose, you can actually get different solving experiences. In this particular case, you can either choose to solve the 2x2 chunk first, or the 3x3 area. And this time I'm going to go for the 2x2 chunk, just because I avoid having to orient centers at the last moment, because these three centers do have a specific orientation that they need to be in. So let's take a look. This center is correctly oriented, as is this one, so that's good. So now I can get the other two edges in without really worrying too much about center orientation. You have to remember that the stickers on the 3x3 and 2x2 are of opposite patterns, which is why you can see here I've put in the white and blue edge instead of green and yellow. I think that's an interesting thing that doesn't make the solve much more difficult, but it can be kind of a gotcha moment if you forget it while actually performing the solve. And with that, the first layer is complete. The green side of the 2x2 and the blue side of the 3x3. So, the only interesting... Oh wait, yeah, I forgot to fix the center, so that's fairly simple. All I have to do is keep adjusting it until it's correct. Alright, and the centers are fixed. So after I fix this edge back up, I will have the first layer done, and as you can see, it is. So the only interesting part of the second layer of this type of solve is putting in the big edge, and then other than that, you just use the same beginner's method algorithms. And after this point, it's literally just a 3x3 solve. Now, what I think is actually more challenging is if you solve one of the 3x3 layers first, because then you're going to have to do last layer algorithms with these 2x2 pieces mixed in with the 3x3 pieces. And that can really be difficult to wrap your mind around if you aren't really used to it. Alright, so I'll just go through and solve the rest of the cube now. And with that, the fused illusion cube is complete and solved. I really think that this puzzle, for something that took very little time to design and build, honestly came out great. It looks really cool just looking at it, and then I really love how the pieces go under each other in really interesting ways. But anyway, that's all I really have to say about the fused illusion. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.